Guys, before you go on to this clip, please don't forget to press the subscribe button for more content like this. We post all our clips on this channel from the podcast. I know you're going to enjoy this quite a lot. Some might even say that the spine or the backbone of what has built modern civilization, say centering itself in the United States, मैं तो उसको और I will localize it and say New York City as the Mount Olympus of modernity. The very phenomena that drives that entire city is envy, is jealousy, is this desire for ungodly material consumption कि भाई सब ही दे दो मेरे को, सबसे महंगे से लेके सबसे सस्ते तक का. और अमेरिकन इकोनॉमिक थिंकिंग, पॉलिटिकल थिंकिंग का भी बैकग्राउंड थॉट यही है कि आप लोगों को कंपेटिटिव फील्ड्स में डालो, लोगों को फील करने दो कि वो कम कमा रहे हैं, वो ज़्यादा कमा रहे हैं, एंड दे विल ऑटोमेटिकली प्रोड्यूस इनोवेशन एज कॉम्पेंसेशन, राइट, फॉर दैट फीलिंग. So on some level, this deeper sort of psychological feeling of not being enough produces more than enough. Do you think that's a reasonable way of looking at the world? Because my view is that the Indian thought, on the other hand, says yehi to sara, like this is the burden on your atma, ye envy, ye comparison. What do you think about that?
So I think there are points of view on this, but my points of view on this is very simple. That what drives you? What drives you, is it external factor or internal factor? So would you do an innovation because you want to compete with somebody, or would you do an innovation because you want to make a difference to somebody?
Do you think making a difference to somebody is that motivating?
No, that's a personal choice. That's a personal attribute that you could have. Whether making a difference to somebody is more motivating to you, or whether competing with somebody is more motivating to you. And that's what makes a driver being different from one person to another. So I would say that an innovation, and I can give you my own example here. So as a part of the organization where I work and the role which I play, which is mainly in the area of taxation. And as you see that typically the tax consulting job is considered to be one of the most notorious jobs.
Why?
Right, because you help people save taxes, and that save taxes becomes
You
avoid.
made a difference. You made a
avoid,
difference to
avoid
somebody's
taxes,
life.
right? Now, now there within that milieu, there was an opportunity for me to work in some project, and in that project I could make a difference to hundreds of thousands of people who are the taxpayers of the country by suggesting something which subsequently became policies, etc., etc. And doing that job was very satisfying. Until I did that job, I wasn't sure that what is that level of satisfaction, right? Because I didn't know, I didn't experience that what is the experience of making a difference.
But uncle, I am imagining कि this happened fairly recently, 5-10 साल पहले.
About 15 years back.
15 years ago also, you had kids.
Yes.
You had friends who you'd help through very tough times.
Yeah.
You've had a marriage that has lasted this long. You've had all these aspects where you've
Yeah.
made a difference.
Yeah.
But you still think this satisfaction was superior?
This satisfaction was far superior because of two things. One, the scope of it. It made a difference to large number of people I couldn't have imagined. I can always imagine.
Is there a number to this? So we can...
So there would be all taxpayers.
all taxpayers in the country.
Right, all taxpayers.
Acha.
Right, so I could never imagine that there's something I could do which would make difference to all taxpayers in the country. So making a difference to an individual known is one part. Making a difference to few individuals known. Making a difference to an individual not known to you as a stranger. And making an individual difference to the community, to large number of people, all of whom are not known to you as a community.
Right.
Right. None of you individually know.
Right.
Right. But you still made a difference to them. And the satisfaction on that is very different. And until I experienced that, I couldn't have even programmed myself or planned myself to get that experience.
Bilkul. Unless you'd experienced it, there is no way you know what that feels like. So there is
Yeah.
no way to move towards it.
Yeah, there is no way to. There was no point A I could define in those terms.
Right. But my suspicion is, were you like, इसको मैं were you नहीं बोलता, मैं इसको general ले जाता हूँ. आपको ऐसा लगता है क्या ये motivation at say your 50s or your late 40s or you know whatever age you were in at that point is more reasonable, and in your 20s people are motivated by other things? Because अगर मैं एक बहुत ही commonplace understanding लूँ हमारे 20s और late teenager ecosystem का, तो आदमी competitive exam दे रहा है. The word competition's in it and the whole motivation is rank लाना है, पास होना है, फलाना ढिमका. उसके बाद जॉब पकड़नी है तो आई एम competing against n number of people. उसके बाद promotions लेने आई एम competing against n number of people. It seems like competition's right in your face, and this grand beautiful idea of satisfaction is still pretty elusive.
No, so I would say what you said as a competition, that's a competition to achieve that grand beautiful idea of satisfaction. So if you're competing to become an IAS officer because you want to make a difference to the district which is in the remote Bihar or in Bastar or in Madhya Pradesh, then that's the idea, that's the satisfaction you are seeking. But the fact that you need to compete among 250,000 kids, that's a process. So what is driving you? What's driving you is becoming an IAS officer to make a difference to that. Becoming an IFS officer and making a difference to the country's foreign policy. Now that's the driver. The fact that you're competing with 250,000 people, that's not to my mind, that's not a driver. Right. So,
Right.
so while we are looking at competition being everywhere in all these steps that you take, even the red light when you cross,
जल्दी निकलने की भीड़
जल्दी
तो है,
निकलने की भीड़ है,
हाँ,
right?
हाँ,
So वहाँ भी competition है. So, but
Right.
I don't think that is the competition that is driving you.
right.
You may have a momentary high also that, oh my God, मैंने इसको जल्दी cross कर लिया. But I don't think that's a satisfaction which makes you sleep better. That's a satisfaction which gives you an emotional experience which you have not even thought. एक बार करोगे, दो बार करोगे, कितनी बार करोगे? So I would say that an experience of the kind which gives you something novel.
Would you define an adventure sports as something novel, or am I trivializing your point?
No, I think adventure sport could also be, and particularly when you say that my adventure sport is aimed at something. So I would say that anything that you do, even the sweeper that would come to my place, she would also make a difference. Not only just to her family, in the whole ecosystem. I can tell you, I still have a secretary with me. And in a professional services organization, on one hand, secretaries are fulcrum to run your life.
Right.
On the other hand, they are the lowest rung people in the hierarchy of the organization. Now, my secretary, over the years, she has contributed to make the difference to almost everybody who in the 30 years time has joined my team. And there would be hundreds of those people, young kids who have joined my team. They're settling there, they're progressing their career, they're going through ups and downs. She's the one who is making difference to them. Now, in her role in a corporate organization, in a organization which is fairly standard, how could she make a difference? And you know what? I learned after about 4.5 years of working with her that she didn't have a kid. I always used to wonder why she's so attached. I find something different in her than the other people around me, other secretaries that are around me in the same organization with the same pay grade, with the same empowerment, with the same kind of people.
She's more affable. She's more warm.
More warm, affable, looking forward, looking at what else can I do for him.
Wow.
Right. Now, I didn't know this background of her family, that she didn't have a kid, and maybe that's one reason that she's longing for that emotion.
Right.
And that's why is giving her satisfaction, and that's why she's making difference, and that's feeding into each other. But it happens in all walks of life. You don't need to do something very great and grand to it. But the point I want to make is, whatever you do, what is the bhav behind it? why do you think you are doing it?
Intention?
Intent about it.
And how does that change the equation?
It changes the equation. Like you said, that adventure sport, right? If your intent in the adventure sport is to say that my intent is to then motivate the people, because that's a new adventure sport which India doesn't play, but I find a lot of people who can aspire to play it in India, and they can make careers in that, and they can generate economy in that, and they can make name for the country for that. And that's my intent. So I want to make a difference in this community, in this society, in this country, with people who are even not known to me. By playing this adventure sport, by creating that mark which people identify with me as Prakhar, who is from India, who did it first time, he's the guy who did it first time, right? So if there is a shooter who got the Olympic medal, then there was a slew of shooters who came about. So when he did it, what was his intent?
You mean Rajavardhan Singh Rathore famously, right?
Rajavardhan Singh Rathore. Bindra was the earlier one, right?
Oh, Bindra was earlier.
Right. So I'm saying those. Now, what was the intent? I create that. Are you creating it to make a difference? And therefore feeling happy, satisfied, experiencing that extra emotion which otherwise won't usually occur to a person?
Right.
Or are you doing it for proving to yourself that I'm competing and therefore I'm better? There's nobody else who is better than me in the world.
So, should I, as a 20-something sitting in front of you, as now, I think early 60s, am I right in assessing it?
Yes.
Should I understand कि मेरी life का एक बहुत interesting sort of character ये होना चाहिए, which is altruism? क्या altruism, is that essential? Is that non-negotiable? Like, or is that हाँ ठीक है मतलब मिठाई के लिए बढ़िया है end में? Like, because from what it sounds like, tell me if I'm understanding this properly. From what it sounds like, आपका कहना ये कि अगर आपके काम के पीछे एक altruistic, एक selfless, एक contributive भाव है to change somebody else's life, the returns on that are incrementally higher than if you do it for self-consumption, for proving a point, etc.
So I'm saying that because of my experience, but I would also introduce to you that whether or not such altruistic content would make you happy or not, you could discover it yourself.
ठीक है.
Do you know today, if I were to ask you, do you know today what makes you happy?
It feels like I'm in a confession room. Somewhat. I can tell you what gives me pleasure, short term. For instance, I've been playing chess forever. More recently, I've fallen in love with poker as a game, and I love it. It gives me immense pleasure. I forget where I am. More recently, maybe since I've finished college, I've never asked myself what makes me happy. I'm more often asking myself, what am I responsible to get done? तो मैं responsibility frame के साथ अपनी life ये करना है, check, ये करना है, and this is how I move, as opposed to previously where I would feel like मैं क्या करके खुश हूँ, अब मैं उस direction में move करूँगा. तो I can kind of tell you what gives me pleasure. I cannot tell you what gives me joy in the grand sense. I think my best guess on what will give me joy is pursuing something difficult and meaningful over a prolonged period of time and triumphing. मेरा ये guess है कि मैं अगर जीतूंगा ना कुछ बहुत, जैसे मान लो अगर मैं suppose if I was a lawyer and I prepared for a case and I spent enough time and I got it done, and then the judgment's in my favor, I'd probably be happy.
So tell me, if you're a lawyer and you know that somebody did a murder and you were
supposed to represent him,
and you got him freed,
right?
Would you be happy?
That is the exact question why I'm not a lawyer, uncle. This is the exact question I asked my father a very long time ago, and I was like, आपके पास जवाब नहीं है, मतलब मैं law नहीं करूँगा. I would think so कि because as a lawyer आपको एक preconception लेके ये move करना ही करना है that there is no truth until the courts have argued or ordered for it. Right. So I don't know if my client has actually murdered someone. I cannot assume or presume that information because then I'm being a very bad lawyer. So
no, but if you know it,
if you know it. Realistically, though, I know it.
Yeah, if realistically you know it, would you still be happy living in that frame of so-called tangible protocols
Right.
to prove that it is not the case?
आप ब्यूरोक्रेटिक दुनिया और रियल दुनिया के बीच के डिफरेंस को इलस्ट्रेट कर रहे हो एंड आई एम नॉट श्योर मे बी आई वुड फ्रॉम द कंपेटिटिव लेंस ना कि मेरे को ये करना है एंड आई वांट टू बी वेरी गुड एट व्हाट आई डू या बिकॉज ये तो डेड केस था मैं घुमा के ले आया बट मे बी ऑन अ सोलफुल लेवल आई सस्पेक्ट आई माइट नॉट क्योंकि
Okay, now consider it. You don't need to just veer around this.
हाँ
Just say the opposite case. Now you were getting to represent the person who was the victim, right? His family.
राइट
And you got them a compensation or whatever,
आई वुड फील सो हैप्पी
right?
दैट वुड चेंज
So now see the change on your face.
वाओ आई सी योर पॉइंट
Yeah,
हाँ
Right.
हाँ how does one then think of
I tell you,
हाँ,
when you said this, I feel so happy. You should take the shot of that versus when you were saying maybe I would be happy.
right
Your face was glowing, your eyes were popping.
हाँ.
It made so much difference just in this illustration of simulation.
no because I felt it
You felt it.
I
right?
felt my face lighten up.
Right.
बिकॉज वो तो बहुत ही मजा आ गया अब तो हमने इनको जस्टिस
Right,
दिला दी
right,
राइट
right.
राइट गाइज अगर ये सुन के आपको भी लगा वाओ मैं भी ऐसे सोचना चाहता हूँ मैं सीखना चाहता हूँ ऐसे कैसे सोचते हैं तो क्या करना है सब्सक्राइब का बटन सब्सक्राइब